Somewhere beyond the two-lane highway, where radio static smothers every station and the corn whispers secrets to the wind, there's a lonely farm no map dares mark. Folks driving past glimpse only a sagging porch light and a scarecrow that never seems to stay in one place. I can still smell the straw smoke in my hair. They say every prison night sounds the same. Distant metal doors slamming like thunder, inmates cursing the walls, the buzz of fluorescent lights wearing thin. But the night the scarecrow burned me alive, the halls of Grayson County Jail fell silent, as if the whole building had been nailed shut by something older and darker than steel. Now I've got one last hour to write this down, before the guards notice the blisters that spell my confession. I murdered Herman and Mabel Fletcher, and the scarecrow saw everything. 3 nights after Duke and I clawed through the drainage tunnel behind Green Hollow Penitentiary, our map looked more like a blood-smeared grocery list than a plan. We were starving, broke, swapping trench foot jokes to keep our courage from leaking out. Duke, built like a sack of anvils, wanted a getaway truck. I wanted shoes that didn't squish. That's when the farmhouse lights shimmered in the distance like a promise. Milk-white porch bulbs, a windmill spinning slow under a harvest moon, and a lone scarecrow guarding the fields. The hay figure was comical at first glance. Button-eyed, patched denim overalls, floppy brown hat tilted just off-center, an almost friendly thing, arms outstretched as if it wanted to hug the moonlight. But the closer we trudged, the less I laughed. Maybe it was the meticulous stitches, every thread tight as surgical sutures. Maybe it was the way a raven sat on its shoulder, utterly unafraid, its claws sunk into burlap skin as though perched on something alive. "Relax," Duke muttered, slapping my back. Those old codgers probably love this straw idiot more than each other. He was right. Love is exactly what I tasted in the air. Warm soil, applewood smoke, and a softness that made me feel like a burglar in a cathedral. The Fletchers were inside, sipping cocoa, watching a black and white movie. I saw it all through their parlor window while Duke kicked in the cellar door. They didn't hear a thing until I was already behind them with the fireplace poker. I told myself we only wanted cash and car keys, but in the shatter of lamp glass and Mabel's scream, something primal hijacked Duke. He stabbed Herman twice with a rusted pitchfork. I hit Mabel too hard and felt her skull give like overripe melon. The cocoa steam mingled with blood on braided rugs. The scarecrow stared at us through the window, its burlap grin unchanged, yet somehow condemning. We ransacked every drawer, found $76, a pickup title, and 3 jars of home-canned peaches. Duke laughed, spitting tobacco juice on Herman's shoe. "All this fuss for fruit," he jeered, but I couldn't stop glancing outside. The scarecrow's hat now pointed directly at the parlor door, as if it had pivoted while we were killing its makers. We torched the living room to hide fingerprints, gasoline, matches, a flurry of sparks. As flames rose, the scarecrow stood silhouetted in the field, arms wide, hat brim glowing like a fiery halo. Duke blew it a kiss. "Hope your little straw buddy don't melt, Grandpa Fletcher." I didn't laugh. In the blaze's reflection, the scarecrow's button eyes gleamed red, and the raven launched into the night with a shriek that sliced my marrow. We split up afterward. Too risky to stay together, we figured. Duke kept the pickup and drove 70 miles to an abandoned bait shop near Miller's Creek. I hiked north, cutting through corn rows until dawn purpled the sky. At sunrise, I slept in an irrigation shack, but my dreams stitched a new scarecrow every hour, each one stepping off its post to stalk me down endless furrows of bone-dry soil. The first call came that evening. My prepaid burner clanged to life, Duke's voice popping with panic. "Ray! Ray! You hear me?" he hissed. "It followed me." "What the hell are you talking about?" "That damn scarecrow. I saw it outside the bait shop window. Thought some yokel moved it for a gag, but then it showed up in the supply closet. Closet, Ray. Left straw on the floor. You're trippin', Duke. Sleep off the meth fumes." "I ain't high," he barked. "It watched me. Even smelled like smoke from the farm fire. I'm telling you, that hay freak knows what we did." The line rustled. Wind. Maybe sobbing. I told him to ditch the shop. Find a truck stop. Stay public. He muttered something about hearing ravens on the roof and hung up. I wrote him off as cracked. Guilt plus adrenaline worms into a man's brain. Still, that night, I barred the shack door and jammed a shovel against the knob, just in case straw learned to turn handles. Next day, I found a cheap diner with a dusty TV bolted above the coffee urns. The broadcaster's smile looked glued on as she announced, "Escaped inmate Tucker Duke, Darrow, discovered deceased outside Miller's Creek. Authorities report severe lacerations consistent with farm equipment. Unidentified plant fibers, possibly straw or hay, were recovered at the scene." I dropped my spoon. On screen, Duke's mugshot flashed beside a blurry crime scene photo, a smear of red across cement, a few tufts of stuffing brushed into a gutter. No footprints, no suspects. My heart jackhammered. The scarecrow had been real to Duke, real enough to kill. I left the diner shaking, convinced every cottony weed in a sidewalk crack was a piece of its flesh. I saw straw in truck beds, straw in storm drains, straw in the cuff of my own jeans. Each wisp felt like an indictment. By dusk, the paranoia outgrew my skin. I pictured Herman Fletcher's trembling hands adjusting the scarecrow's collar each morning, whispering to it like family. The old man must have asked it to watch over the farm. I'd butchered him beneath its gaze, and some part of the land had answered. So I did what any damned soul does when the devil shows up wearing burlap. I surrendered to lesser devils. At 8:47 p.m., I walked into the Grayson County Sheriff's Office, hands up. The arresting deputy blinked twice, maybe because escapees don't usually stroll in voluntarily. I confessed to everything except the scarecrow. That part I swallowed. I needed stone walls, steel bars, real ones, not straw arms, to keep the nightmare out. Jail felt safer. Bright lights, cameras, locked doors. They tucked me into cell 17, solitary pending transfer back to Green Hollow. I breathed relief for the first time in 48 hours, until I noticed the faintest smell of smoke curling in through the vent. Sweet, like burning hay. Lights out came at 11 o'clock. Fluorescent snapped off, replaced by a low amber glow. I sat on my cot, fists balled, staring at the door's narrow window. Midnight. Footsteps, slow and scraping, not boot soles, more like dry husks brushing concrete. A whisper of straw on iron. A shadow blocked the hallway light, something tall, shoulders too broad, head crooked under a wide-brimmed hat. I froze. "Guard?" I croaked. No answer, only the hiss of fabric sliding against metal, then the clink of a key finding a lock. My lock. Cell 17 swung open without a squeal, hinges oiled by some impossible hand. The figure ducked inside. Moonlight from the high window cut across its face. Burlap stitched into a grin. Button eyes reflecting pale silver. A slit across the chest leaking wisps of glowing embers. The scarecrow had carried the fire of the farmhouse with it, banked in its hollow heart. It stepped forward, scattering blackened straw on the floor. My back hit concrete. I smelled kerosene, an aura sweating from its sleeves. "This ain't real," I whispered, voice gone small. "It's just guilt. Guilt dressed up like a monster." The scarecrow raised one arm. Fingers of twisted wire clicked open like shears. A dry voice, wind through cornstalks, floated from the stitches. Justice reaps what blood has sown. Flames ignited along its cuffs, racing up burlap limbs, yet the straw did not crumble. It bent toward me, set one burning hand against my chest. Heat tore through the prison garb, through skin, into ribs. I smelled roasted marrow. I screamed myself hoarse, but the sound died in smoke. The mattress caught next, then the cinder block walls, blackening as if painted by hell's own breath. The sprinkler system failed to start. Sirens remained silent. Fire alarms slept. It was just me and the scarecrow, and the memory of an old couple's gentle life flickering across those button eyes. Pain flattened time. I lost track of minutes, seconds, but I remember the scarecrow's final act. It pressed its burning face to mine. In that fiery echo, I saw Herman's tender smile as he tucked straw into the figure's collar, saw Mabel humming while stitching fresh patches. The scarecrow was their love-made wrath, a guardian turned executioner. When it withdrew, the brim of its hat crumbled into ash, revealing a crown of smouldering thorns. It stepped back into the hallway, trailing cinders that spelled our names, Duke, Ray, before collapsing into a pile of harmless grey dust. But the fire remained, devouring the cell door, licking the ceiling like a starving animal. They'll find my body soon, curled under a blanket of soot, the word killer blistered across my chest, in swollen burns only straw hands could brand. Maybe they'll blame faulty wiring, ignore the faint scent of applewood and barnyard soil. Maybe a rookie will notice button eyes buried in ash and wonder. Doesn't matter. The scarecrow served its harvest. If you're reading this, don't pity me. Pity the next fool who mistakes tenderness for weakness, who desecrates a love so absolute it can rise from the field on burning feet. Because somewhere beyond these walls, a new post already stands empty, and a raven circles overhead, looking for a home in a stitched-up shoulder, and the harvest moon rises again,